Hello and welcome. I'm Lindsay, the National Educator for Evan Healy. And today I'm here with Bridget Mendel, the B Squad Program Director at the Minnesota Bee Lab, our September Sanctuary recipient. Welcome, Bridget.
Thank you. Thank you so much for supporting us and for talking to me today.
Thank you for being here. So our Sanctuary program is an ongoing program that we have where we donate $1 from each of our bottles of our Sanctuary collection to different groups that promote human rights and environmental justice. And I'm so proud that this month we are donating to the Bee Lab at the University of Minnesota, my alma mater. And today, Bridget is going to tell us a little bit more about all the important work that they're doing and what makes them so special. So, Bridget, would you like to tell us a little bit about what kind of work you're doing at the Bee Lab?
Yeah, so there is a lot of different work going on at the Bee Lab, the University of Minnesota Bee Lab, and all of this work is in different ways focused on supporting pollinators. So that includes all pollinators. So we have so many different kinds of pollinators in the world, over 20,000 different kinds of bees in particular. And in our, more locally in our state, we have hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of bees and pollinators. So we have a lot of work to do to support all of these different kinds of important insects. And we do that through research. We have a honeybee lab and a native bee lab, which is very unique in that we're housed in the same building. And so the honeybee industry and work and the native bee restoration and work can sometimes be sort of separate, and we get to kind of think about why that is and then work together and see where we can support each other and where we can hone messaging to, have people outside of the lab also support this diversity of pollinators. So it's a really, really cool place to work. So we do that research. We do a lot of education, and that education is focused on beekeepers. So helping beekeepers keep their bees healthy in this environment, in this climate, and then non-beekeepers. So that's just kind of shorthand for everybody else who is invested in pollinators, whether they just are really passionate about pollinators or whether they're really thinking through the ways in which pollinators are part of a different passion like gardening or like climate change mitigation or farming, sustainable farming, or native landscape restoration, whatever that interest is, or just more holistic interest in healthy, diverse ecosystems. We're there to support people in how to best help bees. And it's really challenging, and we are always evolving our messaging. In particular, my group, the Bee Squad, our job is really outreach and messaging. So we're always evolving our messaging to react to what's going on in the lab, our lab and other labs with research that's happening about pollinators. And then also what's happening in the public, what's the messaging, where do we want to step in and sort of say, here's how we're seeing it, because, it's complicated. And I think especially today, people really want to know, okay, what's the answer? What's the bad guy? What can I do? The one thing I can do. And there is that one thing in this case, which we can talk about later, but there's also like, it's so complicated. Like, pollinators are at risk and struggling, and even some of them at risk of going extinct because of the world, because of the way we use landscapes, what we prioritize, our way of living, our way of farming, our way of all of us, how we move in the world, and the attention we pay to our the places around us. So, it's really kind of fun work to figure out how to get people's attention and get them interested in that gray area.
It sounds like it's ever evolving as well. Like,
oh, totally. Yeah. And I probably today will kind of always, that evolution part of it will be really present, because especially right now, we are really, there are some shifts in the conversation that are really, really important. And I'm just trying to be really open to that and kind of see where it goes, because yeah, there's some really cool shifts that we're really learning about in terms of research that's coming out about how different species are affecting each other and what we can do to support, this, again, this diversity and support all bees. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So amazing. Thank you for doing this, and thank you to everybody.
No problem.
Education is so important, and that is sort of that ongoing part to connect people to you. So can you tell me a little bit about what your role is and how you got involved with the Minnesota Bee Lab?
Yeah, for sure. So my role at the Bee Lab is that I direct or run the Bee Squad. So I get to kind of lead a team of beekeepers and outreach educators. And we have a lot of different programs. So I'm kind of organizing those and making sure everybody is kind of where they're supposed to be. So there's that side of it. And then I also get to kind of, dream big about who we want to be in the future. Like I said, how is the world changing, and how do we want to fit into that change? How do we want to be really supportive to what people are asking for in terms of education and what's happening in the lab with what research is coming out. So we get to kind of translate that research to the public, to beekeepers. So that's really fun. And we get to work with the researchers a lot. So our team both looks outward and works with the public. And then also a lot of us are turning inward and helping, with different research projects that are happening. Some of my team members have been moving out to North Dakota for weeks at a time to support Dr. 𝐾𝐨𝐳, who is doing a study on queen bees and the economics of queens in commercial operations. So fun things like that, where nobody really sees that, but we're behind the scenes doing that work. So I got involved. I was actually in grad school at the U as well, in creative writing. So I'm not a scientist. And I was writing for my friend. I've been keeping bees for a while, and my friend has a journal called the Beekeepers Quarterly. And I was writing an article. I was like, oh, I need a topic. And I decided to tag along on the Bee Squad with Dr. Becky Masterman, who previously ran the Bee Squad and really actually created the Bee Squad. She really grew it from an idea to this, the organization that it is. And so I followed her around to write the article, and then she finally just hired me because I just was still there. So yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. So I can feel your passion about it, and just the fact that you're keeping bees already is sort of amazing to me, which is a goal of mine someday. So so then can you tell us a little bit, I mean, you touched on it, but a little bit about how you mentioned how the Bee Squad kind of got its start, but can you tell us a little bit about even how the Bee Lab as well got its start?
Yes. So the Bee Lab, it's been around for a while. I think it's maybe the oldest official university program. I don't know if that includes like all colleges or just, public universities, but in, I think it was 1913, there was a guy named Father Francis Jaeger, and he was a priest and an immigrant from Slovenia to the US, and he started keeping bees and just completely became fascinated by them. And he ended up founding I believe it was called the Department of Bee Culture back then. And it was, 1913, he started teaching, extension education, teaching beekeepers, corresponding with beekeepers, and really promoting the industry and promoting beekeeping at that time. And yeah, so that's how it began. And really, from there, we've had so many amazing bee researchers, as well as students, of course, come through. So now, many, many decades later, we have Dr. Marla Spivak, who runs the Honeybee Lab. and Dr. Dan Caribou, who runs the Native Bee Lab, and Dr. Katie Lee, who runs kind of the extension part of it. So keeping that, that charge of helping Minnesota beekeepers. And then of course, us with the Bee Squad, who kind of support all three, hopefully. And so currently it's really expanded, and I don't quite know the history of when. I think we used to be part of zoology, but when we kind of added in this more holistic approach to pollinators versus just apiculture, which is beekeeping, and it's very, very different. So managing honeybees is this huge part of our country. It's this, they're not native to this country. They were brought over by European colonizers, and they have become absolutely integral to our agricultural system. And that's just the fact of the matter. And at the same time, they're also deeply, we have this deep, ancient connection with honeybees. So people have always kept honeybees and always interacted with those boxes of bees or pots of bees or whatever from whatever cultural time you're looking at. So that's just something that's unique. Most other of the hundreds and thousands of pollinators are solitary. They don't live in those colonies. They have a very different life cycles. And so adding in that component of like, honeybees, we have this amazing connection with, and they are very important, but there are all these other kinds of bees that are like very, very essential to our ecosystems and to our food systems, both native food systems and non-native crops. So we have to kind of elevate those bees and kind of, show people the importance of all of those kinds, because just having one type of bee is not sustainable, of course. Just like in any system, you don't want to have a monoculture ideally. So yeah, rambling answer.
What's that?
Rambling answer to your question.
No, it was beautiful. And so, I know you're working in conservation for the bees, and just realizing the absolute diversity of the pollinators is something that I think, a lot of people don't realize, that there's so much more to it than, like you said, just that there's the beekeeping, which we're all very aware of in our agricultural systems, but there's more to it. And so it's kind of amazing to hear you talk about it. And so I appreciate all of this, and I hope our viewers do as well.
Oh yeah, it's like a treasure box, because everybody has a picture of a bee, whether you're scared of them or you love them, whatever, honey. But then if you look into like, what are the bees that are indigenous to my area? It's like opening a jewel box. I mean, there's just incredible beauty actually in the physical colors and shapes and sizes of the bees. And then you start looking at how they live, and it's just fascinating. They have amazing relationships with particular flowers, or, it's a really kind of fun, beautiful, whatever path to go on, once you start. But
yeah, it's like sort of like its own little like world, like you said, like this ecosystem too.
Yeah. And even looking at, if you have a plant that oh, bees like this plant, or you bought it maybe because you want to get a plant that bees love, and you look at it, you see a big bumblebee. Okay, that's a lot in itself to learn to identify different types of bumblebees. But then the more you look, if you just attend to that plant, suddenly you'll start to see all these tiny little bees and things you didn't even know were bees. It's just, even with one plant, you can kind of have your mind blown with the diversity of bees out there.
I believe it. And even this conversation is helping to expand and open my mind even further with something. I absolutely love bees, and lived on a farm in North Dakota till I was 6. So
cool.
I have that connection with you as well. So you're working with actual farmers when you're on site in North Dakota when you're working with this research. Is that how that goes, or is it?
Sorry, finish your question.
Well, is it actually, with the farmers and on the farms, or do you have a location there that's affiliated with the university?
That is such a good question. And actually, there's a couple different programs that maybe my original answer kind of mixed together. So oftentimes, so one thing about the honeybees in particular is it's a kind of a non-bordered operation. So a lot of beekeepers are migratory and move across the country actually. And the Dakotas, Minnesota are, sort of one kind of, it's kind of their resting ground. So it's a place where a lot of beekeepers are in our season, and we're able to work with them, support what they're trying to do. And so that project in particular is with beekeepers themselves. So yeah, there are farmers in a way actually, but and they often have really, relationships with farmers themselves that they, to have their bees on the landscape. So that's with beekeepers, and that kind of the lab's work does extend across. I mean, we have technicians who work in our lab who actually follow migratory routes to support those beekeepers and help them kind of get them some data on their bees and what's going on with their colonies. So we do move around with beekeepers, and we have relationships kind of across the country. Not me particularly actually, but others in the lab. And then we actually do work with farmers a lot. We love working with farmers because they have huge capacity to help pollinators, because they steward landscapes of bigger sizes than most of us. So we've done a lot of programming with urban farmers, urban youth farmers, and, just really talking about integrated pest management and how, working with them with their visions for growing different foods and how pollinators might support that. And then also throughout the state, and actually the Native Bee Lab is doing this huge project, which people could check out on our, I don't know how much there is on right now, but on our website, working with farmers in the southern part of Minnesota, looking at habitat restoration, well, not even habitat restoration, but getting seed mixes on farmland. So farmers who are participating are willing to say, yes, we want to support bees. We want to support you to tell us what mixes are best for us in terms of viability, economics, for the health of our native pollinators, honeybees, all these different things. So we do work a lot with farmers at the lab in different ways.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So wonderful. So yes, like you mentioned, the stewards of the earth is something that, at Evan Healy, we're just, very proud of that aspect of our company, as well as we source direct from certified organic small family farms. And, when we go up to our distillation workshop with our farmers in Northern Washington, something that we all notice while we're there is the diversity of bees on this beautiful herb farm with, the bees are bouncing around between the different plants, and they just seem like they're in bliss as well. They're so in their just this comfortable, organic environment. And so, it is very important to our business as well, being a plant-based, organic skincare company. So
yeah, and I actually, that was one of the reasons I was really excited when you reached out to us, because I think that herbalists and people who grow plants for, human use for, whether it's beauty or health or medicine, whatever, like they are automatically sort of pollinator people, I know, actually, I got into bees. One of the first people I was working for, my friend Deb Soul, who's an herbalist in Maine, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was just gardening. I was just growing plants for her, for her herbal business. And it was all about bees and hummingbirds and butterflies. Like that's all we talked about, because they were sharing all those plants that are good for us and have these qualities that we use are amazing for pollinators. It's just, they use them differently, sometimes similarly, but so, yeah, I think that your work is directly related in that sense, working with growers and the pollinators benefit from that. So
yes, we all benefit from the pollinators.
yeah, exactly. It's mutual.
Well, is there anything else you want to, for our customers and our viewers to take away from today's talk?
Let's see, I think I probably over talked on various things, so I'm probably good, but just, get to know your local indigenous pollinators to your area. And then the best thing you can do for them, the best thing is to plant flowers for them. And then habitat too, that's often like leaving the flowers, and they love different stems and little piles of wood and sandy places and sticks and things like that. So we have so much information on our website, but if you're in California or wherever you are, you might have a different extension or, lab that does this work. But yeah, planting flowers for those bees that you're getting to know is the number one thing everybody can do. And it really does make a difference. So
thank you for that. That's perfect advice for us today. And if people wanted to get involved or donate to the Bee Lab, how can they do that? Oops.
Site, we have just revamped our website. It's very cool, and we do have a place for giving, and of course that is a really good way to support pollinators too. We do that. It's all we do is work to help bees. So your support would directly help us to do those projects, and especially the work that we don't get funded for, which is often the outreach work. So we don't want to be charging community groups to learn about bees. We want to just be there. So that's a lot of what happens. And then of course the research is a lot of it is through those funds as well. But yeah, and other ways to get involved, again, like we have a lot of planting resources, and it really is just kind of endless. We have a lot of ideas that help you, if you're creating a garden, to make it beneficial for you as well as your pollinators, and just really fun ideas. So peruse our website. You can always, of course, get in touch with us as well if you have an idea or questions. So
awesome. Oh, thank you so much, Bridget. This has been wonderful. You are a wealth of knowledge.
Not really, but I do love what I do.
So much appreciation. And thank you everybody for joining us today. And please look for more information about the Bee Lab on our website and our recent information coming out. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you, Lindsay. I hope you come visit the Bee Lab soon in your old school. So
I will. You can count on that. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.